Hey everyone, welcome back to Firsthand Globetrotting. I'm back with part 4 of my trip on the Carnival Legend, my first cruise experience. The first few days of this trip were sea days where I got to figure out all the great things they have on board, eat way too much food in the restaurants, and ride out the waves and the weather. Yesterday was my first port day, and I got to go on dry land to see Nassau's downtown tourist area, all of the colorful buildings, and walk down the Queen's Staircase. If you missed any of my earlier videos, I'll put links to them down below. It's my 5th day on the ship, and today is another port day, so the first thing I did was head down to the breakfast buffet so I could grab something to eat before I head back to the Bahamas. I've mostly been doing a la carte breakfasts in the main dining room and haven't really eaten here for lunch or dinner either, so this was my first full buffet meal of the cruise. I think it's because I got here so early, but there was almost no one else here. I've walked by during lunch and dinner before and it's been packed. I'm almost always going to pick the option to have something made to order off a menu instead of a buffet. That's just my preference. But I'll admit, the breakfast buffet was pretty good. Way more options than ordering in the main dining room, and everything I had tasted good, no complaints at all. This was definitely a much faster meal compared to the other days, which is good since I have an island to visit. The port today is a private island and beach area owned by Carnival, so only Carnival and Princess ships are allowed to go there. This one is a little different though. You have to get tickets to take a water taxi called a tender from the ship to the port. The tenders are pretty small, so each ticket has a zone number on it. I was in zone 3. This helps with crowd control so you aren't waiting in a super long line to get on the tender. The reason they use the tenders is because the port isn't deep enough for the big cruise ships to pull right into port, so they have to stay out in the deeper part of the ocean and unload passengers. I definitely prefer the ports where you can just walk right off, since it kind of felt like I was just mindlessly walking around an empty ship waiting for my zone to be called. Eventually my zone number was up, so I made my way over to where the tenders board and got ready for a little boat ride over. I can see why they board by zones. The tenders are pretty small considering how many people are on the cruise and want to get to the island. They keep going back and forth from the island all day long and just attach a little walkway across from the Legend over to the water taxi for loading and unloading. It's not too bad on a day like today where I'm just planning to relax at the beach, but if this was a port where you really wanted to get off quickly and had a lot planned, it does slow things down. But pretty soon we were making the short trip from the cruise ship over to the port. I can already see the beach umbrellas along the shore, so I'll be putting my feet in the sand in no time. The island I'm at today is Princess Cays, a private island owned by Carnival that only guests on their ships are able to visit. Well, they call it a private island, but if you look at a map, it's actually more of a private area on the bigger island of Eleuthera, hidden right at the very bottom of the island. But it doesn't really matter if it's a private island or not, because the beach looks amazing and we get to spend nearly the whole day enjoying it. Looking at the map, it has pretty much anything we could want for a beach day. Plenty of sand, buffet restaurants for food, bars, sports, water activities. It looks like there's a lot to keep me busy. It was kind of an unexpected feeling to look up from the sand and the water and see our cruise ship off in the distance, just floating out there in the middle of the ocean. I had maybe been on the island for 10 minutes at this point, and I already got my first nature sighting of the day, a stingray swimming by the beach. There weren't many people in the water yet, so this was a great time to come by and see the rays before the crowd scared them away. They have a separate area of the beach where you can pay to swim with stingrays, but it looks like there are plenty of wild ones, so no need to pay. Honestly, I'd rather see the ones that are just swimming around in the open ocean instead of the ones that are trapped behind the fenced-off area of the bay where the stingray encounter is. Seems a lot more humane and natural this way. And unless I just got really lucky, they don't seem to be very hard to find along the beach. There were some rocky areas in the water, so that probably means there will be some fish swimming out there, since they love those sorts of places to hang out. I've only been here a little while, but I'm definitely liking it so far. I can see why so many of the cruise lines have their own private beaches like this. It looks so nice. First thing I did was hop into the water and start snorkeling. I went to one of the rocky areas near the tips of the swimming bays, and there were so many fish there. Everywhere I looked, there were big schools of fish swimming past me. Just fish, fish, and more fish in every single direction. The rocky areas are usually where the fish hang out, and that was definitely the case here. As I was swimming around the rocks, I saw another ray off in the sandy area. See, no need to pay for any stingray encounters here. Plenty out in the water just swimming around. And when I went back to the rocks, I ended up swimming right through a fish party. There were all sorts of different shapes and sizes of fish everywhere I looked. It was great. Honestly, I could probably stay in the water swimming around and snorkeling all day long. There seemed to be so many great places to see fish and other sea creatures. But I have all of Princess Cays to explore, so I do want to get out and see what else I can find on the rest of the island. If you didn't bring your own snorkeling mask, they have some for rent at a little building along the beach. After I dried off, I started wandering around and came to a little watchtower platform called Crow's Nest Overlook that you can climb up to the top of. It's not very tall, but that's okay because nothing on this island is very tall. You get a nice 360-degree view all around. It really is just mostly ocean and sand in every direction. Even though the non-private part of the island is behind us, you can't really tell that there are any towns back there. It just looks green off in the distance. Mostly just trees and beach chairs and colorful roofs everywhere you look. It's actually pretty windy right now. I can really see the palm trees blowing around from up here. Lots of coconuts up there. I love the bar setup here. Everything is open air with the beach and the ocean and the ship out in front of you. Such a great visual. If you want, they have private cabanas you can rent for the day further down the beach. They have cute little names like Sugar Apple and Key Lime, and nice colorful designs like little beach houses. But for me, the free loungers were all I needed. And they definitely had a lot of loungers here. Row after row of them anywhere there was a sandy beach. Once you get past the private cabana area, the sand starts to disappear and you get into some of the very rocky coastline instead. Look at all of these crabs out here. There are so many of them crawling around with shells of all sorts of different shapes and sizes and colors. It's like they're having a little party out on the beach. As I made my way down this rocky area, there were actually quite a few people walking around over here. A lot of them were out fishing. There must be a lot of sea life in the water at this end. Even though it's a lot quieter down in this area and it feels more secluded with the rocky coastline, as soon as you look up at the water, you're reminded that your ship isn't very far away. They even have a little fishing hut down this way where you can rent a rod and get set up to do some fishing. The further I got down here, the more I started noticing the rocks were getting darker and almost like Swiss cheese with the little holes in them. It's getting rockier and rockier as I go, and you start to feel like you're coming to the absolute edge of the world, far away from the sand and lounge chairs back near the pier. But just when I thought I couldn't walk any further, I came around a corner and there was even more beach stretching away in front of me. I wonder how long it would take me to do a full lap around and if I could make it back to where I started. This fish obviously likes the shallow water out here. There was barely enough room in the water to keep it submerged. And just sticking out from a hole under the rocks, I think that's a sea urchin down there hiding and riding out the waves. I have no idea what this is. It looks like a rock in the shape of a mouth, but the things growing on it look sharp like teeth. And pretty much everywhere I walked, there were little shellfish attached to the rocks, clinging to pretty much any surface they could. On the beach, there was a big piece of coral that looked like a giant beach brain. The ridges almost looked like a maze that you could follow to get from one end to the other. But if the main area is too loud and busy for you, this is a great place to come for a walk. It's just you and some sea creatures and a few people fishing and the sound of the waves. As I made my way back, I walked up to the fishing shack to see what was going on there. It was kind of nice how they had so many shells decorating the counter, since I saw so many of them at this end of the beach. How can you not like it on this island? Just the ocean stretching out in front of you with plenty of sand and sunshine for everyone. By now it was lunchtime, so I headed over to Grill Crazy, the lunch buffet that you can eat at here on Princess Cays. Nothing fancy here. It's a pretty simple beach grill where they have some easy beach lunch options, so you don't need to go all the way back to the ship. I went with cheeseburgers and salad, which was pretty much exactly what I felt like on a day like today. And they have some picnic tables you can sit at, so you get the sound of the waves and a view of the ocean as you eat. The whole island is kind of like its own mini beach town, with little paths leading through it and some little shops along the way. The shops weren't big or fancy or anything, just some simple market stalls selling the type of souvenirs you'd find in pretty much any tourist area. A few of them were a little more permanent in some of the bigger buildings, but I didn't really spend too much time looking at any of them since I spent enough time in the straw market yesterday. If the ocean isn't enough for the kids, they even have a little play area called Pelican's Perch with some playground type stuff for them to do. On one side of it, there's even a little pool that the kids can swim in case they don't want to deal with the sand and the waves anymore. As I was walking around, I even found a live band playing next to one of the beach bars. It definitely gave off some nice island vibes having them playing, which was a really nice bonus over just having music on speakers. It really is like its own little town. It even has a first aid station in case anyone gets hurt. Since I got off the ship, I've stayed on the bigger side of the island where most of the stuff is, but I decided to take a little walk across the bridge so I could see the other area too. Some people are already back on the tenders heading to the ship, but there's still plenty of time left to explore the island and more things to see. If I hadn't told you I was on the other side of the island, would you have been able to tell? Just like the part I was on, it's mostly just beach chairs and sand and ocean everywhere you look on this side. I didn't realize this side of the island had a buffet too, but I guess it makes sense since it would be a long walk back to the other one when you get hungry. And if it has a buffet, you know they definitely have their own bar over here too. They even had a basketball and volleyball court on this side. You see beach volleyball a lot of places, but I feel like a basketball court on the beach is a little more rare. Just like the other end of the island, it feels like you could just keep going along the beach until you make a big circle back to where you started. I'm not sure if it's just getting a little later in the day and people are heading back, but this side of the island definitely feels a lot quieter and less busy. This area has the water sports rental place, and they had all sorts of paddle boards and kayaks and boats and other things you could rent. I don't remember seeing this on the other side. After I finished my walk around this part of the island, I headed back to the dock area and crossed the bridge back to the main beach. When I got back to the main part of the beach where I'd been hanging out for most of the day, it was still pretty busy here, so that other beach is definitely the more hidden one. Remember how I said this isn't actually a private island, just a private beach? There's actually a place where you can go walk out of Princess Cays to the public part of the island. It's called the Bahamian Craft Market, and there are a bunch of stalls set up outside the gate. Since you're outside the private area, you need to show your cruise card to get out and get back in, but the market is just on the other side of the fence, so it's easy to get to. And if you want to change things up from the buffets and bars on Princess Cays, there's even a little bar and grill here. I don't know if they really have anything different or better prices than any of the other souvenir places around, but it was at least worth visiting. And I guess I can say I visited the main island and not just the private part. After a pretty full day at Princess Cays, it was getting later in the afternoon, so I got in line to get back on a tender to the Legend. I have to say, I really liked it here. It wasn't too big or spread out, so it was really easy to walk around and explore and see as much of the island as I wanted. But it also never really seemed too busy or packed. There were plenty of beach chairs to sit on, never really a long line at the bars or buffet, and overall, just a really nice, relaxed place. Even if it had been a little busy, as I walked around, I found a lot of more secluded areas that would have been great spots. I see why the cruise companies all have private islands. They're so much fun, I'd love to come back. Even the tender ride was nice, getting to look over the side and see the clear blue water of the Bahamas underneath us. But in about 5 minutes, we were already pulling back up along the side of the Legend. I don't remember if my room was on the same side as the tenders. I should have left something in my window so I could tell which room was mine. Is it just me, or does it seem even bigger than it did when I walked up to it on land? And before long, they were putting the little walkway bridge between the tender and the Legend, and it was time to get back on the ship for the day. When I got back on the ship, I was a little bit hungry, so I decided to head up to where the food is to get a snack. I showed you Guy's Burger Joint the other day, but they have another made-to-order food place out by the pool deck, Blue Iguana Cantina. You can order tacos and burritos here, and then load them up at the toppings bar. I went with some chicken tacos, and they were the perfect snack after a day at the beach. While I was up here, I decided I'd check out the Serenity Adults Only area. I saw it from above the other day when I was at the water slides, so I figured that now would be a good time to come down and have a look around. This might be because it's a port day, but it definitely seemed quieter than the main pools. It's in a really nice location with its own bar area and plenty of seats, plus you're at the rear of the ship, so you can look out over the water as the cruise takes you between ports. If you have kids, you've probably heard of Build-A-Bear before, where you don't just buy a stuffed animal, but actually stuff it too. The Legend has Build-A-Bear at sea, so we decided to stop by. This isn't included in the price and you have to buy the bears, so be warned. I don't remember if any of the options were different than when you build a bear on dry land, but this was probably one of the most popular family events on the cruise. After that, I was back in truffles for my dinner. I started with the ceviche crudo. I liked the sweetness of the mango mixed with the fish, shrimp, and lime. I also got a salad. Nothing fancy, just tomatoes, greens, feta cheese, and dressing. For my main, I went with the barbecue ribs. I felt like something a little different than my usual seafood meals on here, and I'm glad I did. They were pretty good. For dessert, another classic tiramisu. As I've been saying, I've been eating way more desserts than I normally do. I just can't turn them down. As I was leaving dinner, one of the little conference rooms was turned into a pop-up art gallery with pictures for sale. They were even giving an art seminar inside, which I definitely wasn't expecting. Not sure I'd buy artwork in the middle of the ocean, but another interesting thing that they have to keep people entertained. And for the rest of the night, honestly, I just sat around and relaxed, so really not much to show you. But today was a great day. I loved getting to go to Princess Cays and had so much fun spending time on the private island. 2 ports down, 1 to go. Tomorrow I'm in Freeport and have an excursion planned, so I'm really excited to get up tomorrow and try that out. Make sure to check back to see what I'm up to. I'll put links to all my Carnival Legend videos down below. This was the end of my 5th day on the ship and the 4th video in this series, but I have a lot left to do and to show you. If you have any questions about the Carnival Legend or anything I've shown you, ask me in the comments. And while you're at it, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. If you want to see what I'm up to now, I'm Firsthand Globetrotting on Instagram. Follow me on there. And don't forget, it's an incredible world out there, so pick up your passport and do some firsthand globetrotting of your own.